The Senate will come to order. Senator Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. President, and guests and colleagues, will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Majors, please call the roll.
Senators Aguilar, Baumgardner, Carroll, Cook, Crowder, Donovan, Garcia, Grantham, Guzman, Heath, Hill, Hodge, Holbert, John, Johnston, Jones, Kafalis, Kerr, Lambert, Lundberg, Marble, Martinez-Uminig, Merrifield, Neville, Newell, Roberts, Scheffel, Scott, Sonnenberg, Stedman, Tate, Todd, Ulibarri.
Excused.
Woods. Mr. President.
Here. With 34 present, 0 absent, 1 excused, we have a quorum. Senator Tate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am more adequately caffeinated today, so therefore I move that the reading of the Journal of Tuesday, March 8th be dispensed with and it be approved as amended by the Secretary of the Senate.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted and the journal is approved. Reports of committees of reference.
March 8, 2016, Committee on Local Government. After consideration, the Mayor's Committee recommends following House Bill 1030, referred February to the Committee on Finance. March 8, 2016, Committee on Transportation. After consideration, the Mayor's Committee recommends following House Bill 1061, referred to the Committee on the whole favorable recommendation, with the recommendation to be placed on the consent calendar. March 8, 2016, Committee on Transportation. After consideration, the Mayor's Committee recommends following House Bill 1122, be referred to the Committee on the whole favorable recommendation, with the recommendation to be placed on the consent calendar. March 8, 2016, Committee on Transportation. After consideration, the Mayor's Committee recommends following House Bill 1067, be postponed indefinitely. March 8, 2016, Mr. President, the Committee on Transportation has had under consideration as that hearing on the following appointment, recommends the appointment be placed on the consent calendar and confirmed. Member of the Colorado Aeronautical Board for a term expiring December 19, 2018. John William Reams of Natrita, Colorado, to serve as a member from the Western Slope and who represents local governments which operate airports, reappointed.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I move that the Senate proceed out of order for purposes of receiving a moment of personal privilege by Senator Cook.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Senate will proceed out of order. Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today is Ames Community College at the Capitol today. And Ames Community College is a public, fully accredited two-year college with multiple campuses in northern Colorado. They have 2 in my district, 1 in Greeley and 1 in Fort Lupton. And the third one is outside of my district, but it's in the great city of Loveland. And Ames has been established in those areas for quite a while, and Ames has over 160 degrees and certificate programs and over 4,000 daytime, evening, weekend, and online courses offering each year with courses are designed to transfer to a four-year institution or to prepare students to enter technical careers. And they are a local district college, so they receive very little funds from the state. Most of it is through the community, through property taxes. And I'd like to introduce Dr. Leah Bornstein as the president of Ames Community College.
Keeping with our tradition, you will waive the application fees for the rest of the day because of that gratuitous commercial. Don't make us run a bill. Senate Services.
March 9, 2016, correctly printed Senate Bills 151 and 152, correctly engrossed Senate Bills 58, 102, 132, Senate Joint Resolution 13, correctly re-engrossed Senate Bills 85, 126, and 135, correctly revised House Bills 1033, 1038, and 1284, correctly re-revised House Bills 1051, 1064, and 1091, correctly enrolled Senate Bills 55, 63, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 95, and 107.
Message from the House.
March 8, 2016, Mr. President, the House has postponed indefinitely Senate Bill 17. The bill is returned herewith.
Third reading of bills, consent calendar. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title of the bills on the third reading of bills, consent calendar?
House Bill 1033 by Representatives McCann and Nordberg and Senators Cafalas and Newell concerning the Colorado Human Trafficking Council. House Bill 1038 by Representatives Milton and Salazar and Senator Jones concerning optional affiliation with the Fire and Police Pension Association by a county sheriff department that does not participate in Social Security.
Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate adopt bills listed on the third reading of bills for final passage consent calendar, which includes House Bill 1033 and House Bill 1038.
You have heard the motion. Is there further discussion on any of the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar? Seeing none, are there any no votes on either of the bills? Senator Neville.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1033.
Senator Neville will be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1033. Further no votes on either of the bills. With 34 ayes, 33 ayes, 1 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, House Bill 1033 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Heath, Minority Leader Guzman, Senator Aguilar, Senator Carroll, Senator Jones, Senator Merrifield, Senator Todd, Senator Kerr, okay. With 34 ayes, 0 noes, 1 excused, House Bill 1038 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Minority Leader Guzman, Senator Heath, Senator Aguilar, Senator Todd, Senator Kerr, Senator Newell, Senator Merrifield, Senator Scott, Senator Crowder, Senator Garcia, Senator Johnston, Senator Donovan, Senator Baumgardner, Senator Cafalas, Third reading of bills, final passage. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to Senate Bill 132?
Senate Bill 132 by Senator Cook and Representative Foote concerning clarifying that test results relating to certain DUI offenses are not public information.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for adoption of Senate Bill 132 on third reading and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 132 is adopted. Co-sponsors, Mr. Majority Leader. Senator Aguilar, Senator Woods, Senator Merrifield, Senator Scott, Senator Todd, Senator Tate, Senator Kafalis, Senator Baumgardner, Senator Garcia, Senator Lundberg, Senator Hodge, Senator Crowder, Senator Roberts, Senator Newell, Senator Neville, Senator Marble, Senator John, Senator Garcia, Senator Lambert, Senator Sonnenberg, Senator Heath, Senator Hill, Senator Martinez-Humenick, Senator Grantham. Please add the President. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to House Bill 1284?
House Bill 1284 by Representatives Norberg and Moreno, Senators Hill and Garcia concerning divestment by the Public Employees Retirement Association from companies that have economic prohibitions against the State of Israel.
Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate lay over House Bill 1284 to the end of the third reading of Bill's calendar.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. House Bill 1284 will lay over until the end of the third reading of Bill's calendar. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to Senate Bill 58?
Senate Bill 58 by Senator Hill and Representative Becker K concerning the regulation of certain foods in connection therewith exempting certain food producers from licensure, inspection, and other regulation and making an appropriation.
Senator Hill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I move Senate Bill 58.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, are there any no votes? Senator Jones, Senator Carroll, Senator John, Senator Aguilar, Senator Kerr, Senator Todd, Senator Merrifield, Senator Garcia, Senator Newell, Minority Leader Guzman. No votes. With 24 ayes, 10 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 58 is adopted. Co-sponsors, Senator Crowder, Senator Woods, Senator Cook, Senator Lundberg, Senator Tate, Senator Marble, Senator Neville, Senator Lambert, Senator Sonnenberg, Senator Holbert, Senator Scott, Senator Baumgardner, Senator Grantham, Senator Roberts. Mr. Majority Leader. Senator Martinez-Humenic. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to Senate Bill 102?
Senate Bill 102 by Senator Curtin, Representative Moreno, concerning the elimination of mandatory sentences to incarceration for certain crimes in connection therewith making and reducing an appropriation.
Senator Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 102 on third reading and final passage, and ask for permission to run a third reading amendment.
Please explain your request.
Thank you, Mr. President. L003 completely changes the intent and meaning of the bill because we are adding the word "or." Page 3, line 8. After
And what work will we leave for the House to do? Senator Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, we're taking their oar away from them, so maybe we'll leave them a paddle or something.
The request is for permission. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Permission granted. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title of Amendment 3?
Amendment L003,
Senator Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move L003.
Please explain.
It adds the word, thank you, Mr. President, it adds the word "or." On page 3, line 8, after 18-8-706.
Let me retroactively recognize the entire Senate to ask you the question of where "or" goes. You've all been recognized. Is there further discussion? Please text your questions. That's how we get all the fines. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, Amendment 3 is adopted. Senator Kerr, to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 102 on third reading and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Or not? Seeing none, are there any no votes? Senator Crowder, Senator Tate, Senator Roberts, Senator Cook, Senator Sonnenberg, Senator Scott, please add the President. With 27 ayes, 7 noes, 0 absent. Oh, Senator Heath. No votes. With 27 ayes, 7 noes, 0 absent, 1 excuse, Senate Bill 102 is adopted. Co-sponsors, Senator Heath, Senator Newell, Senator Stedman, Minority Leader Guzman, Senator Hill, Senator Jones, Senator Baumgardner, Senator Todd, Senator Merrifield, Senator Kafalis. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to House Bill 1284?
House Bill 1284 by Representatives Norberg and Moreno and Senators Hill and Garcia concerning divestment by the Public Employees Retirement Association from companies that have economic prohibitions against the state of Israel.
Senator Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1284 on third reading and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Senator Heath.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I said yesterday, this has been a very, very tough one for me personally. And I just want to make clear that I don't feel this is the right way for us to dictate to the para in terms of how they run their investment policy. I just want to make clear it's certainly in no way illustrates my lack of strong support for the state of Israel. I do have strong support for the state of Israel. I just don't think this is the right way to run an investment policy. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of House Bill 1284 as well. I plan to vote in favor of this. Like many of us, I've had the privilege and opportunity to travel to the nation state of Israel and experience firsthand that remarkable place. I think we're all very familiar with that, with the rich history they have, the innovation, the obstacles that they have overcome. The unique relationship that our nations have together and our pledge to support, uphold, defend that nation notwithstanding their necessity of surviving in an extraordinary, difficult environment. Like many of us, I've read the speeches of their Prime Minister. I've seen his addresses before the UN Joint Session of Congress. And a constant theme that you hear is of their struggle over time. They are an ancient people. In nearly 4,000 years of history, many have repeatedly tried to destroy the Jewish people. A commemoration approaches that is key to the Jewish people called Purim. They will read at that time to commemorate a powerful story about a Persian viceroy named Haman who plotted to destroy the Jewish people. They'll read about a courageous woman named Esther who exposed the plot and gave for the Jewish people the right to defend themselves against their enemies. That story is read yearly and reflected upon yearly, over and over again, because it's important. It chronicles the 4,000 years of history. That particular story is some 2,500 years old. If you recognize it, it's because it comes from the book of Esther in the Bible. It is important that we recognize and continue to support the state of Israel. I believe that House Bill 1284 does that. I thank the sponsors for bringing it, for continuing to bring this important issue of standing with Israel to the forefront, and that's why I'm supporting it today. We reflect often in this time on important issues that we have to continue to keep at our forefront and not forget. I believe this is one of those times. Today, I vote for House Bill 1284, and I stand with Israel.
President CADMAN.
Thank you, Madam President. I have no doubt that everybody in this chamber supports what Israel represents, not just to the world, but specifically to our nation. It's a partner, it's an ally. We contribute a lot to its national security. and it's worth it. 8 million people. Innovation nation, consistent with the reputation of what Israel has brought to the world. It's in our computers, it's in our flash drives, it's in our smartphones. We use their technology when we navigate. Our GPS, it's on our farms, drip irrigation. It's in our universities. And you can see the reflection of the innovation of Israel as the highest per capita winners, recipients of Nobel Prize, chemistry, economics. It's in our medicine cabinets. I actually know people here that are taking the drugs for Parkinson's that were developed in Israel. Many of you know I had a chance to go there. Majority Leader and I were on the same trip a few months ago. I was there a couple years ago, and frankly, I had hoped that that was a trip that my colleagues from Aurora and from Boulder could have taken, and we could have done that together. And I'm sorry that we didn't have that opportunity to share an amazing life event both times. What really compelled me to share today was listening to my colleague yesterday from Colorado Springs talking about the dark side of the world in the Mideast and his experiences there in the military and the threat to peace in the Mideast and what Israel stands for in that threat. And I wanted to share with you one specific event. When we were there a couple months ago, if you didn't know this, for the last 4 years, the Israelis have been taking care of those injured in the civil war in Syria. And I knew a little bit about that, but what I didn't know was they weren't just taking care of children and civilians, they're taking care of soldiers. 2012, one of the IDF forces was contacted because they had a soldier that was so injured they had no way to treat him, and the Israelis began taking care of Syrian soldiers. So we had a chance to visit the hospital, Ziv, I think is how it's pronounced. And as we're approaching the hospital, I said, how close is the border? And they said, 9 miles. I said, 9 miles? 9 miles. And it started to put the picture of where we were and what was happening there certainly became very clear. And when we got into that hospital and we saw these Syrian soldiers that were getting not just triage and sent back, absolutely the best medical care that could be provided by the best doctors. And they were doing full reconstruction surgery on these guys, and not just, and so we saw a PowerPoint of some of the patients that had been through there, the children and the civilians, but the people that we met were the soldiers. And the people, a couple of them had literally just come out of surgery, and some of them had amputations, but they were getting, as I mentioned, the best care. And we talked to 2 Syrian soldiers. One had been there. This was his second time to be in this hospital. And he shared with us being raised his whole life to hate everything that Israel represents and everything about them just because they existed. But now that he saw their compassion, now that he actually was a recipient of their humanitarianism, his heart had changed. And so I asked him, what is it like when you go home? Because this was his second time. He said, it's a battle, because this is how we've been raised. This was our culture. And I just thought, here is this tiny light in an incredibly dark place that is the nation of Israel and the people that are willing and committed to this humanitarian effort. And this was the most shocking thing to me and the most uncomfortable thing for me then, was they don't even ask what side of the war they're on. They don't ask who they're fighting for, and they don't ask who they're fighting against. They offer them care. I don't know if I could do that. We all believe that protecting this nation is worth our effort. I know that. But I think about more than what they bring to us economically and more than what they bring to us based on our democratic republic, but a country of people that are willing to set aside their own safety in order to shed this little bit of light in this incredibly dark place is worth protecting. And frankly, if you are causing them harm, you're causing harm to all of us because we're partners with them, and you're causing harm to the future of what they represent and what we represent with them. And I would ask that you would consider that in this, what I would also would be a very token effort to support them against those who would destroy them.
Senator Hill.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, you have heard why BDS, the boycott, divest, and sanction Israel movement is bad foreign policy, but I want to remind you why it's even worse economic policy. Leaders within the BDS movement are calling for the boycott of companies such as Coca-Cola, Lockheed Martin, Caterpillar, Boeing, Pampers, Trader Joe's, and many others. These companies are foundational to the American economy, and their stock is likely a part of your portfolio, as well as every single other Coloradan's retirement portfolio. And so if you publicly profess, as is your right to do as a free person or as a company, as you publicly profess to boycott these companies, you're putting a political agenda above that of financial stability or shareholder value. And this is why this bill is so important to us. Because while a private individual, a private company has a right to do so, the people of Colorado should not be forced to bear the risk that this brings into our public pension system. And so we must arrest this risky trend before it endangers the financial safety of Colorado's pensioners and taxpayers. So while BDS puts Colorado taxpayers and pensioners at risk, there are many good reasons to invest, economic reasons to invest in Israeli companies and companies that do business there with our ally. The Economist stated in 2010 that Israel, adjusted for population, quote, leads the world in the number of high-tech startups and the size of the venture capital industry, end quote. Friends, this is the type of growth and innovation that will boost the values of Colorado's public retirees. And through good policy, and good monetary policy, a responsible central bank, Israel barely blinked when the Great Recession hit. And this is the kind of stability that we need, securing the retirement of Colorado's public retirees. For many years, Israel's vibrant economy and financial stability has boosted the retirements of Colorado's public employees. The BDS movement puts a political agenda above financial stability. And so it's our duty to respond not just to the bad policy, but more importantly to the bad economic policy, and ensure that BDS does not harm Colorado taxpayers.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1284. Are there any no votes? Minority Leader Guzman. Senator Heath. Senator John. Senator Jones. Senator Kafalis. Senator Aguilar. Senator Stedman. Senator Newell. Senator Merrifield. With 25 ayes, 9 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, House Bill 1284 is adopted. Co-sponsors, Senator Crowder, Mr. Majority Leader, Senator Lundberg, Senator Woods, Senator Lambert, Senator Baumgardner, Senator Cook, Senator Sonnenberg, Senator Roberts, Senator Holbert, Senator Scott, Senator Marble, Senator Tate, Senator Martinez-Humenick, General orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar. Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for consideration of General Order, second reading of bills, consent calendar.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Senate will resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of General Orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar. Senator Holbert will take the chair. And the gavel.
Thank you, sir. The committee will come to order. The court rule is relaxed. Mr. Majors, would you read the title to all of the bills listed on the General Order, second reading of bills, consent calendar?
House Bill 1046 by Representative Kraft, Representative Baumgardner, concerning the response to hazardous substance incidents under designated emergency response authority responsibility. House Bill 1082 by Representative Garnett and Willett and Senator Todd, concerning area vocational schools in connection with changing the name of area vocational schools to area technical colleges and adding representation for area technical colleges to certain boards. House Bill 1083 by Representatives Brown and Hamner, Senators Donovan and Grantham, concerning the role and mission of Western State Colorado University.
Majority Leader Shuffle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I move the committee adopt the bills listed on the general order second reading of bills consent calendar, which includes House Bill 1046 and its associated local government committee report, House Bill 1082, and House Bill 1083. Ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion on any of the committee reports for the bills listed on the consent calendar? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the committee reports listed on the consent calendar. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee reports are adopted. Is there any discussion on any of the bills listed on the general order second reading of bills consent calendar? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the bills listed on the general order second reading of bills consent calendar. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bills are adopted. Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion is to rise and report. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee will rise and report.
The Senate will come back to order. Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your committee has met, had a number of bills under consideration. Mr. Majors, would you please read the report?
March 9, 2016, Mr. President, Committee of the Whole basically reports that on consideration of the following types of bills being second reading that makes following recommendations thereon. House Bill 1046 as amended, House Bill 1082, and House Bill 1083 passed on second reading in order to revise to place on the counter for third reading and final passage.
Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move adoption of the report.
The motion before the body is the adoption of the report of the Committee of the Whole. Is there further discussion? Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, the report of the Committee of the Whole is adopted. House Bill 1046 as amended, House Bill 1082, House Bill 1083 passed on second reading and ordered revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. General orders. Second reading of bills. Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of general orders, second reading of bills.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Senate will resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of General Order's second reading of bills. Senator Holbert will take the chair.
The committee will come to order. The Colt rule is relaxed. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to Senate Bill 62?
Senate Bill 62 by Senator Marble and Representatives Baker, J. and Veal, considering modifications to the regulation of veterinary pharmaceuticals.
Senator Marble.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 62 and the Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy Committee report and the report from Appropriations.
Very good. To the Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Ag, Natural Resources, and Energy Committee report adds 2 members to the Board of Pharmacy, a licensed predominantly large animal veterinarian and a licensed pharmaceutical wholesaler engaged in the distribution of animal drugs. In the case that there could not fill the 2 positions, then 2 licensed predominantly large animal veterinarians or 2 licensed pharmaceutical wholesalers engaged in the distribution of animal drugs will be filling those positions. If no licensed veterinarian or licensed veterinary wholesaler can meet eligibility requirements, the position will be filled by another type of licensed pharmaceutical wholesaler. The amendment also adds further veterinary devices that the board may exempt from regulation, and in Section 3, it adds disciplinary actions that the board provide notice and an opportunity to be heard to the registrant, and the board shall consider the registrant's ability to pay.
Is there further discussion on the committee report from Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the committee report. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee report is adopted. Senator Marble to the Appropriations Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Appropriation Committee report basically states that for the 2016 and 17 state fiscal year, $5,220 is appropriated to the Department of Regulatory Agencies from the Division of Professions and Occupations Cash Fund to cover travel expenses and per diem for the 2 new board members.
Is there any further discussion on the Appropriations Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Appropriations Committee report is adopted. To the bill, Senator Marble.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. For the last 10 to 15 years, veterinarians and veterinary pharmaceutical supply wholesalers have been regulated by the Board of Pharmacy with no voice. This has resulted in unintended suffering and consequences for our pets and livestock, and by appointing a veterinarian and a veterinary pharmaceutical wholesaler to the Board of Pharmacy, our animals and livestock industry will benefit greatly. As it stands right now, our veterinary supply and suppliers are regulated under 6 different regulatory divisions. The Colorado Board of Pharmacy regulates the sale and distribution of veterinary drugs between manufacturers, distributors, veterinarians, and end users in the case of wholesalers who distribute to end users. The Colorado Department of Agriculture regulates the sale and distribution of restricted use pesticides used in livestock production. Also through State Veterinarian's Office certifies certain vaccines for use in Colorado on a provisional basis. Colorado Department of Environment, Health, and Sustainability regulates the labeling of veterinary pharmaceuticals used on dairy farms in Colorado. The Food and Drug Administration regulates the licensing of veterinary drugs and devices, also is responsible for investigating incidences of violative drug residues in food animals. The United States Department of Agriculture regulates the licensing of biologicals such as vaccines and serums, and the Environmental Protection Agency regulates the licensing of insecticides, fungicides, and rodenticides used in livestock production. When we started writing this bill, it was about a year ago when I went in to buy the vaccines for my horses, and I stopped in to talk to the veterinary supply owner, and it became very evident that there was a problem. There was a lot of rising costs involved in the veterinary pharmaceuticals, and over the last 10, 15 years, it just seemed as it's becoming more prohibitive. I went through and talked to many of you and asked and took a poll that if we were to do something and get a bill to address the problems that were occurring in veterinary medicine, would you support it? Would you support it? I asked 23 senators, and 23 senators said yes. So today, after meetings and conference calls with CSU President, the CSU Pharmacy, DORA, the pharmacies, independent retail and compounding, the State Veterinarian Office, Colorado Veterinary Medical Association, the Colorado Livestock Association, Colorado Cattlemen's Association, Colorado Farm Bureau, Colorado Farmers Union, the veterinary pharmaceutical supply owners, independent beef producers, cattle feeders, pork producers, equine breeders. All of them agreed and wrote and made the changes in this bill, which you see today. Senate Bill 62 makes the distinction between the Board of Pharmacy and veterinary medicine and practice. And with that, and for our livestock and for our veterinarians and veterinary pharmaceutical supply owners, for them to have a voice and become a part of how they are regulated, I urge and I vote.
Senator Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, members, I'm going to be voting no on this bill, and here's why. I have never seen, and I've seen a lot of bills, I have never seen a bill that has these if-thens. If it's this person, and you don't have that person, then you can do that person, and if you can't do that person, it's going to be that person. On the committee amendment that was adopted, that we discussed in committee, they add one licensed veterinarian, but if you can't find a veterinarian, you go to a veterinarian drug wholesaler. Now, the veterinarians are bringing this bill. They're supportive of this bill. How in the world they wouldn't find a veterinarian, I don't know. But if they don't, they have to go to a veterinarian wholesaler. And if they can't find a veterinarian wholesaler, then they go to a healthcare professional. That's for one of the additional seats. The second additional seat is for that veterinarian wholesaler that you couldn't find in the previous org chart, if you will, lineup of who you choose. And if it's not them, it's the vet. Remember, that's the vet in the first one you couldn't find. You could go to these others. Now you can go find the vet that wasn't there in the first place, apparently. And then you can have another type of drug wholesaler, so don't have to be a vet anymore. I had to do a diagram to figure this out. Look, if the veterinarians and the drug wholesalers want a bill like this, I'm sure they'll find people. This thing is tortured, in my opinion, and I'm voting no. And I just wanted to explain why. I support the concept for veterinarian voice on this board. I just think this is a poor way to do it.
Is there further discussion on Senate Bill 62? Seeing none, Senator Marble.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Part of that addition in the amendment was put on by DORA. They were supportive of that, and it was not part that the veterinarians had thought of, nor the veterinary supply places. But, you know, for everybody to have guidelines and to protect those positions, everybody saw that it was not something that they opposed. So with the veterinarians thinking that, yes, there would be no problem filling the two positions, one with a veterinarian and one with a veterinary pharmaceutical supply owner, no problem at all, but just in case. So those guidelines were put on, and Dora came forth and wanted at least something, if those positions were open, to be able to fill them with a licensed pharmaceutical provider. So a lot of this was Dora, and not something that we had thought of, but we certainly didn't oppose. And so with that, the whole integrity and purpose of the bill doesn't change whatsoever. It's just a voice and making a distinction between veterinary medicine and human pharmaceuticals.
Is there further discussion on Senate Bill 62? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 62. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and Senate Bill 62 is adopted. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to Senate Bill 115?
Senate Bill 115 by Senator Martinez, Dominican Representative Moreno and Conti. Considering an electronic filing system for documents recorded with the county clerk and recorder in connection with creating the Electronic Recording Technology Board, which is an enterprise authorizing the board to set an additional filing surcharge for a 5-year period, requiring counties to transmit the proceeds of the board's surcharge to the state for deposit in a cash fund administered by the board, requiring the board to make grants from the fund to counties to create, maintain, improve, or replace electronic filing systems, establishing reporting requirements for the board, and increasing a local filing charge.
Senator Martinez-Humenick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 115 and the 2 committee reports.
And Senator Martinez-Humenick, make sure this is local government and appropriations. You've moved both of those reports?
I have local government 001 and appropriations 002 committee.
Very good.
And
Local government committee report, please.
Pardon?
To the local government committee report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The local government committee report amends the bill on page 9, line 7, strikes the word on, and substitutes notwithstanding section 24-1-136, parens 11, and adds another on. And on page 9, it's line 9, it strikes the Department of State and substitutes the word board.
Is there any further discussion on the local government committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the committee report from local government. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The local government committee report is adopted. The ayes have it. To the appropriations committee report, Senator Martinez-Humenick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Appropriations Committee report amends the printed bill on page 13 after line 14 and inserts Section 7 appropriation for the 2016-17 fiscal year. $5,289 is appropriated to the Department of State for use by the Administration Division. This appropriation is from the Department of State Cash Fund created in Section 24-21-104. 3B CRS and is based on an assumption that the division will require an additional 0.1 FTE. To implement this act, the division may use this appropriation for personal services. It also renumbers the succeeding section accordingly, and on page 1, line 112, strikes the word and. Page 1, line 113, it strikes the word surcharge and substitutes surcharge and making an appropriation, and I move the Appropriations Report 002.
Is there any further discussion on the Appropriations Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report to Senate Bill 115. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee report is adopted. To the bill, Senator Martinez-Humenick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Currently, a $1 per document clerk and recorder technology fee was implemented in the early 2000s to aid the county offices across the state in funding technological advancements in recording. As a result, Colorado was the first multi-jurisdictional state in the nation to adopt e-recording across the state and was viewed as a model across the country. The current problem is that over 75% of the counties will have systems that are at least 7 years old by 2017. The average lifespan of software and hardware in technology terms is about 7 years. Over 74% of the counties are not able to pay the maintenance costs with the current technology fee, let alone replace, upgrade, or enhance the functionality of their systems. $7 to $8 million would be needed over the next 5 years to replace all of the aging recording equipment and software in Colorado. This legislation is proposed by a coalition of industry and records management stakeholders to support the replacement and maintenance of a vital and efficient electronic recording system that will be unique to Colorado and to the entire country. The surcharge would fund the replacement of recording software and equipment in 80% of the counties in Colorado. The Electronic Recording Technology Board will establish the statewide business goals and strategies for the system to reinforce the efficiency, accountability, and access for real estate records. It will allow all of the counties within our state to be able to share those electronic records in a very timely fashion and more efficient and effective fashion as well. Without this legislation, the aging recording systems in every one of our districts and our counties will begin to fail, forcing counties to revert to a manual recording process, which is not only time-consuming but more costly. Businesses in the industry will have to physically record documents, affecting getting the documents filed in a timely fashion and making sure that the financial transaction and the cost to the consumer are kept down. The groups that are supporting this bill include the Colorado Mortgage Lenders Association, the Land Title Association of Colorado, Colorado Bar Association, the Colorado's Bankers Association, and the Colorado County Clerks Association. This is a good bill for the counties and for the people of Colorado and the expeditious e-filing of their documents and sharing of documents across the state. I ask for an aye vote on Senate Bill 115.
There is an amendment on the desk. Mr. Majors, would you please read L008?
Amendment L008 to Senate Bill 115 by Senators Martinez, Minnick, and Donovan, amend printed bill page 8, line 18, after priority, insert to rural counties and.
Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L008.
To the amendment, Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill accomplishes many things, and one of them is to create a grant program to support counties going after the goals stated by the bill. During the discussions on this bill and further testimony, there was much focus on how this bill would support rural counties and our small communities across the state. This amendment ensures that that intent is represented in the bill and adds in rural counties after the word priority. I certainly would like to thank the sponsor for bringing this bill forward and also considering the amendment this morning.
Senator Martinez-Humenick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I consider this a friendly amendment. It doesn't change the fact that any of the counties that do not have sufficient revenue from can get money from the surcharge fees if they need to upgrade their systems and enhance their systems. So this just clarifies that rural counties will take priority because they do have the greatest need in most cases, but it doesn't limit our counties.
Is there further discussion on Amendment L008? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L008. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. There is another amendment on the desk. Mr. Majors, would you please read L007?
Amendment L007 to Senate Bill 115 by Senators Ulibarri and Cafales. Amend printed bill page.
Senator Cafales.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, colleagues. I move L007.
To the amendment, Senator Cafales.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, let me explain what this proposed amendment will do and my rationale for offering it. First of all, it would create the Affordable Housing Investment Fund, which would be administered by the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority, and it would add a surcharge to the document recording fee, and those dollars would be used to promote affordable housing in the state of Colorado. That's what the amendment does, and let me offer some background as to why I think this is important. In Colorado, housing costs are continuing to rise. Since 2007, average rent in Colorado has increased by 21%, while income for the median renter households has only increased by 1.1%. The statewide vacancy rate for the second quarter, and this is of 2014, was 4.8%, and now in certain housing markets it's below 2%. Low vacancy rates drive up rental costs, and that can be a burden for low-income working families. In Colorado, the fair market rent for a two-bedroom apartment is over $900. In some communities, of course, it's much higher. In the city of Fort Collins, where I live and the people that I represent, the average fair market rent for a two-bedroom apartment is almost $1,400. Affordable housing is typically defined as rent and utilities totaling 30% or less of a household's total income. A household must earn an hourly wage of $17.61, or about $36,000 a year, to make the fair market rent for a two-bedroom apartment in Colorado affordable. A person earning the statewide minimum wage, $8.23 an hour, would have to work 86 hours all year round to afford the FMR for a two-bedroom apartment in Colorado. For these reasons and many more, I offer this amendment to help establish the Affordable Housing Investment Fund. I think there is a logical nexus between the document recording fee. It's something we've worked on over the years, but I believe there is a logical nexus between this document recording fee and targeting the resources to help create additional affordable housing. I ask for an aye vote on L007. Thank you.
Senator Neville.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To my colleague from Fort Collins, I guess I have two questions. I'm sure that we're going to take a look and have a conversation whether this even fits anywhere under the bill title, which personal opinion, it probably does not. But my question for my colleague from Fort Collins is this a tax or a fee, since it doesn't really go to its original intent? Usually under definition, something that doesn't go to its intent, that's used to pay for something else, would be a tax and would require a vote under TABOR, Taxpayer Bill of Rights. So if you could comment on that to my colleague from Fort Collins, if he could comment on that.
Senator Kafalis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the comments of the previous speaker. What I heard is I can respond to. First of all, regarding the bill title, if you look at the bill title concerning an electronic filing system for documents recorded with the county clerk and recorder, this does have to, in my view, this is a broad bill title, and therefore it, adding to the document recording fee, which this thing pertains to, would fit under the bill title. As far as the purpose of this bill, I understand the purpose of this bill is to generate resources to upgrade the electronic filing system, and I understand that. My intent here is to see if there's a way to raise resources for affordable housing in the state of Colorado.
Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I'd like to answer the question that the good senator from Littleton had posed and had not been answered, and that is this a tax or a fee? It's a tax. It's very clearly a tax, because there is no nexus between a filing fee for any document among the for the clerks and this fund that's set up. So I would urge at the minimum that we vote this down, because it's a tax, and that we don't have the purview to establish without approval from the people of Colorado. It's also a huge tax and a rather inequitable tax, because it has to do with somebody who is required to file a document with the clerk on any subject whatsoever. And I don't know if you've ever done that, but sometimes you'll end up with a whole stack of documents. So it's not just an inconsequential, even though I think $10 is very consequential, but it could be a tax of hundreds of dollars for somebody who has, you know, some complicated filing requirement at their county clerk's office. It's a tax. It's also quite questionable as to whether it really is fitting under the title, but at the bare minimum, I should hope that we would vote no on this tax.
Senator Martinez-Humenick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to request a senatorial 5.
Senate will stand as senatorial 5. The committee will come back to order. Senator Martinez-Humenick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't believe that I request a ruling by the chair. I don't believe that this amendment actually falls under the title of the bill.
A title ruling has been requested. We will stand in a brief recess. The committee will come back to order. The chair rules that L007 does not fit under the title of Senate Bill 115. That brings us back to the bill. Senator Martinez-Humenick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, this bill is a good bill for all of our counties, and I would urge an aye vote on Senate Bill 115.
Is there further discussion on Senate Bill 115? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 115. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and Senate Bill 115 is adopted. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to Senate Bill 116?
Senate Bill 116 by Senator Johnston concerning the creation of deceptive trade practice under the Colorado Consumer Protection Act for a private custodian of criminal justice records to fail to remove a sealed criminal justice record from the custodian's database after receiving notice of a court order sealing that criminal justice record.
Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And committee members, yesterday we adopted the committee report and we were discussing Amendment 3 yesterday.
And Senator Johnson, why don't we go ahead and move the bill again?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I moved Senate Bill 116, and I'd already moved the Judiciary Committee report, and I move Amendment 3.
Okay. I am told that that report has already been adopted. So we are to Senate Bill 116. There is an amendment on the desk. Mr. Majors, would you please read the entirety of L003?
Amendment L003 to Senate Bill 116 by Senator Johnston. Amend the judiciary.
Senator Johnston.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. So just a quick overview, folks, on what Senate Bill 116 does. Because if you take a look at the record sealing process right now, it is...
Senator Johnston, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I believe we did not move the amendment.
I'm happy to do that, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment 3.
Thank you. To the amendment.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So the current process of sealing records is both timely and convoluted and costly. And so that is why we have almost 6,000 people across Colorado who have been acquitted or dismissed. That means they were never found guilty of any charge and are still not able to yet seal their records. And so what we're proposing in Senate Bill 116 is a simplified process, kind of the easy button, if you will, for how someone who is charged with a crime and is then either acquitted, those charges are dismissed, or that person completes a process of a deferred judgment successfully and then is eligible to have their record sealed. And so right now the process requires you to file a separate civil lawsuit against the state, which can cost up to $400. You have to retain legal counsel often to do that, and then you have to go to as many as 6 or 7 different law enforcement entities and collect documents from all of those places to submit them. All this does is to create a process, kind of the easy button process, or the express line at the grocery store, which is at the moment that your charge is dismissed, you can simply say to the court right there, I want to hit the easy button and just have my case, have these records sealed now. You could do it then, you could come back later, but it eliminates the costly civil lawsuit. It expedites the process and the timeline and makes it much easier for folks to manage, and we've been working with Judicial to do that, and so that's what Senate Bill 116 hopes to accomplish. I'd ask for an aye vote on Amendment 3.
Is there further discussion on L003? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L003 to Senate Bill 116. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. To the bill. Senator Stedman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and colleagues. I rise in support of Senate Bill 116. I think this is another in a continuing series of bills that the General Assembly has considered in recent years to address what are known as collateral consequences in the law. Collateral consequences are things that are not part of a person's criminal sentence. They're not part of their punishment from the court for committing a crime. They're the things that happen to you by operation of law because you have a criminal conviction on your record. And anymore, in the society we live in today, landlords pull a criminal history check. Employers pull a criminal history check. There are countless provisions in our state statutes that disqualify you from important opportunities in life because of your criminal history and what shows up on a background check. Record sealing is one of the remedies to this litany of collateral consequences that we have created in law that burden people with criminal histories. Why is this important? Because we know that over half of the folks that come out of our state prison system are destined to commit another offense. They're going to victimize more people. They're going to be back in the criminal justice system, consuming resources from our prosecution, from our county sheriffs and jails, from our prison system. Recidivism is an expensive problem that points to failures in our system, failures that we should take steps to overcome, and measures like cleaning up and making record sealing easier for people to accomplish is one of the ways we can help folks overcome these collateral consequences so that the deck is not stacked against them as they try to reintegrate back into community after doing time in jail or in prison. Otherwise, we can continue to create more collateral consequences and set people up for more and more failures and make recidivism more and more inevitable for offenders coming out of our criminal justice system. This is a perennial problem. This is something that is baked in to our law and our culture in this state, and it's something we need to do everything we can to chip away at and reverse. And Senate Bill 116 and what it does for record sealing is another small step towards common sense where instead of setting people up for failure, we offer them some glimmer of hope and an opportunity for success. I'm very proud to support Senate Bill 116.
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a question for the sponsor. You know, you indicated, I like the bill, but you indicated at the time that there's an acquittal or under several other circumstances, which you said that the person could ask for sealing right then. My question is, why cannot we put an amendment in to make this an automatic situation instead of them having to ask? Why is it we can't just say, well, since they're acquitted and there's no file whatsoever, why cannot the amendment be put in place where they should not have to ask for that, and it's just not automatic. And that was the only question I had. But I like the bill.
Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and it's a great question. The reason why we've done that is because they do have to pay a fee to have those records sealed. It's much smaller than what the fee would have been, but if someone doesn't have the $65 to pay the fee, they might not be eligible to do it then. They could come back and do it, but there is some cost to gather and document and notify all these records, and so you have to pay a fee to do it, is why we haven't made it mandatory yet. But it's a good question for further investigation. Thank you. You bet. Thank you.
Is there further discussion on Senate Bill 116? Seeing none, the question before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 116. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and Senate Bill 116 is adopted. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to House Bill 1139?
House Bill 1139 by Representatives Willett and Hart and Senator Scott concerning electronic participation in committee meetings during the legislative interim.
Senator Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1139 and the Ledge Council report and the State and Veteran Military Affairs report.
To the State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee report. Senator Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. After much discussion and one amendment on 1139, the bill came out unanimous, as I recall, from that particular committee.
Is there any further discussion on the State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the committee report. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee report of State Veterans and Military Affairs is adopted. To the committee report from Legislative Council, Senator Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Legislative Council also reviewed the bill, had a few concerns that we were going to address with an amendment here shortly, but it did pass out of that committee as well.
Is there further discussion on the committee report from Ledge Council? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of a Legislative Council committee report. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee report is adopted. There is an amendment on the desk. Mr. Majors, would you please read L011?
Amendment L011, House Bill 1139 by Senator Scott, amendment reading gross bill, page 2, line 19, strike A, and substitute notwithstanding any provision of law to the contrary, comma A. Page 2, strike lines 21 through 24, and substitute paragraph H is not. Page 2, line 25, after 2, insert receive compensation to which members attending.
Senator Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What this amendment does, I will speak the amendment so that we can then discuss the bill a little bit. What this amendment does is, in the original bill, the House version of the bill, which, as we know, sometimes they are just a little too confused over there. So what we did is we made an amendment to not allow members who want to do this or have to do this for a particular reason to not get compensation in the form of per diem or expenses. So if they choose, or for whatever the reasons are that they cannot be at the committee meeting, that they would not receive any compensation. I ask for an aye vote on L011.
Is there further discussion? Senator Stedman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question for the amendment sponsor. If I understand you correctly, you're saying you would leave it to the discretion of the individual member who's participating electronically as to whether or not they choose to seek per diem?
Senator Scott.
Thank you, Senator Stedman, for that question. No, we are not allowing them to choose. This will go. What the bill does is it basically says the executive committee will decide the perimeters. But within the bill, as it was originally drafted, it was saying yes, they could get per diem money. The amendment strikes that from the bill, so they cannot get per diem money.
Is there further discussion on L011?
Can I answer that?
Senator Stedman.
Thank you. And I'm sorry to belabor the point. Is it so the executive committee wouldn't be able to decide a policy on this? The answer would just be no. If you're only participating electronically, you're not eligible for per diem? Or would it be a policy decision by the executive committee?
Senator Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe, if I'm correct, that since the bill allows the executive committee to set the perimeters on this program, apparently they would have the ability to do what they would like. I just didn't want it in the bill that it was an automatic item where somebody could just automatically say they want per diem.
Further discussion on L011? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L011. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and L011 is adopted. To the bill, Senator Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This was an interesting bill, and I had the privilege of working with Speaker Ferrandino a couple of years ago on the remote testimony bill, and it was a great conversation back then because we had to go back and forth deciding whether or not we were in some way destroying the institution or causing issues with, how this body should work and operate. And we did have quite a bit of discussion, but we did get that bill passed. And of course, as you all know, we now have remote testimony from different locations throughout the state of Colorado, allowing the disabled and other people that can't travel through snowstorms and those types of things to be able to have their voices heard. The next natural step seems to be when we've had situations where members can't make it for committee meetings because of weather, sickness, rock slides in Glenwood Canyon, things of that nature, that they would still be able to participate in a non-voting meeting and not miss that opportunity to have discussion with their fellow committee members. I realize this is difficult for some members because we all believe so strongly in this institution and what it means to be and participate. But for one, I would have never dreamed that somebody was going to hand me an iPad and say, hey, here's where your bills come from now. Although we have the second option, which is still in our drawer. So we have that. I never dreamed that we would sit here and text amongst each other and say, hey, what's going on over there? What do you think about this particular issue or this particular bill, even though we're kind of not supposed to. But we do that. I never would have dreamed we've had monitors and beautiful televisions in the hallways so that people could watch and see what's going on and hear testimony and have cameras here that people could watch us on television. I'm sure there's a time that people said, how could that possibly be? Well, the world has changed, and we either change with the world or we choose not to. And this is not to be a replacement for our participation as elected officials. And giving the power to the executive committee to put some sideboards on this concept, which we did with the remote testimony bill as well, I think gives us a safety net where they can look at this and they can discuss this and decide whether this makes sense. Plus, they will have the ability to review later and say, you know what, this was a great idea and it made a lot of sense, or we need to rein this back in a little bit. Other states are doing this. I believe one of my colleagues mentioned something about the state of Wyoming, I believe it was, or Montana, I can't remember which one it was, about how they are using this type of a system on certain types of hearings that they have up there as well. I believe Texas does some of the same types of interactions via video feeds and those types of things. It just seems to me that as we progress with technology and way into the 21st century, that we need to look at these types of things. But I certainly understand members that would have a problem with the institutional value of this. I totally get that. But I would ask for your support on House Bill 1139 and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1139? Minority Leader Guzman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was in Ledge Council the other day at the committee meeting when we discussed this. One of the reasons that I'm a no on this bill is that this gives the opportunity for those who are serving on interim committees to call in. And interim committees are committees that we request to be members of. We decide we want to serve on that committee. And once we decide that we want to serve on that committee, it seems to me we should have the understanding that that means that we are going to be expected to come to the Capitol a certain amount of days during that interim time. So I am opposed to this for several reasons, but that's one of the major ones. You do a lot better job when you're there. You can discuss with each other. But if you're willing to be on an interim committee, you in fact are saying that you're willing to devote the time, the energy, get to the location. You're given your per diem for that. You're taken care of. For those reasons, I'm opposed to this bill.
Is there further discussion on Senate Bill, or excuse me, House Bill 1139? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House, oh, excuse me. Senator Roberts, I apologize, I didn't see your hand there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in very strong opposition to House Bill 1139, and I want to do it with respect because I think the bill sponsors, both House and Senate, felt like they're on the right course. There's nobody in this chamber who comes further for interim committees than myself, and I'm not looking for an award for that. I'm just saying I fully understand what it takes to be an active, engaged legislator, including on the interim. That's what I signed up to do, though, and I think that it is critically important to be there in person. Yes, there are times when United Airlines does not get me here. There's times when a pass might be closed and I might have to go through, seriously, Utah or New Mexico to get to Denver. That said, that's what I signed up to do. And as someone who has chaired committees, when we're missing committee members, there is a diminishment of the work of the entire committee. There's no replacement for being here in person. When we went to remote testimony, and there's quite a process we go through to actually get remote testimony for witnesses, to me that's vastly different. That is enabling the public to participate in the legislative process. But there's 100 people here only who can vote on bills, on legislative interim committees. It's whatever the size of the committee is, only those people can vote. I think the work that we do in the interim is critically important. It is the basis for many of the bills that we see here during the legislative session. It's up to committee chairs to manage their committee's schedule to make sure it's worth the while to draw everybody in. But again, I do not believe there's any substitute for personal presence, the ability to ask questions of those who are presenting in front of us. If a presentation is being made to a committee, then the committee chair feels there's information that's important for us legislators to know. So again, I respect what the effort is here, but there's a vast difference to me between enabling the public to participate remotely and allowing legislators to do that. I also think it has the practical implication of being detrimental to rural legislators regardless of party, but you don't get the vote, and then you're not representing your district. So I feel passionately about this, and for posterity reasons, I just wanted to say from the far corners of the four corners, this legislator would be very disappointed if something like this passed.
Is there further discussion? Senator Crowder, or excuse me, Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too will have to be a respectful no on this. I don't travel as far as a previous senator, but I am probably the second farthest one out. And I do believe that we have an obligation to be in front of people that expect us to do our jobs and to be at these interim committees. And I understand the reason this is brought forward, and I commend the sponsor for thinking in those terms. But the reality is, what we have to do is we have to be very transparent in our government workings. And part of that transparency is for us to be in place to be able to receive what the comments from the public are. So unfortunately, I will have to be a respectful no, but and I hope the sponsor from Grand Junction does not think this is a personal attack, but actually he comes a long ways too, and it's a situation that we deal with in the state. I think what may benefit this is if we move the capital to, say, Grand Junction or even to Alamosa, then it would. Thank you very much.
Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Judging from some of the discussion we've heard thus far, I think it's fair to say this bill might not have a great prospect today, but I do come in defense of the bill and the idea. And I seriously do believe that we ought to consider measures of this sort because they will occur. I'm watching I just look at my kids and see how they communicate today, and like it or not, the methods for communication are changing dramatically. And I don't believe we should dramatically change. But I believe we should recognize that there are some trends that are irreversible. And I hope that the legislature will prepare for that properly, and to simply say, no, we're not going to do it, isn't going to work. It just flat out isn't going to work. Maybe this legislation isn't the right day and the right time, but I would appeal to all of the members to think very carefully on how we approach the technological changes that have revolutionized our interaction among ourselves. And I'm serious on this. This is an issue that does need to be carefully considered, and I believe that we should, even as we allow the public now, through a very limited mechanism of some remote testimony, we should afford the members some limited ability to communicate in official meetings in an electronic format. It's happening. It's going to happen. I hope we don't wait until some dramatic shift occurs. I would appeal to everyone in the body to think long and hard about this. Maybe not this bill today, but don't put it off as if it isn't going to be a reality. It is. It is. And even as we need to preserve the legislative process, we also need to acknowledge the reality of how people are learning to communicate, and therefore I will be a yes vote today.
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1139? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1139. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. What? Okay, the noes have it, and House Bill 1139 is lost. Sorry, we had a question of whether a division was called. I did not hear that, but okay. Okay. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to House Bill 1144?
House Bill 1144 by Representatives Becker, J. and Pedersen and Senator Grantham concerning transparency of post-secondary courses offered to high school students.
Senator Grantham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1144.
To the bill, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill is in regard to transparency in the post-secondary courses that are offered to high school students. One of the problems we've run into is some of our students in high school in the concurrent enrollment program taking some of these courses and then finding out after the fact and after they've taken the courses that they aren't transferable into some of the post-secondary institutions. This bill will simply require the high schools to inform the students of what does and doesn't qualify in the concurrent enrollment program and what does and doesn't transfer from one college to another. And I would ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Senator Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a question for the sponsor as to when this bill would take effect.
Is there further discussion? Senator Grantham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As one might be able to read on page number 3, there is the typical petition clause where it would take effect upon August 10th, 2016, given no petitions taking place.
Senator Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1144? Seeing none, the question before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1144. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Having concluded the general order second reading of bills calendar, I move that the committee rise and report.
The motion is for the body to rise and report. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee will rise and report.
The Senate will come back to order. Do I have a motion to change leadership? The motion, that motion passes. We now have
The Senate will come back to order. The rebellion has been put down. And Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Madam President. Your committee has met and had a number of bills under consideration. Mr. Majors, would you please read the report?
March 9, 2016, Mr. President, the committee hold basic reports out of consideration of the following text bills. Being second read thereof makes following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 62 is amended. Senate Bill 115 is amended. Senate Bill 116 is amended. Passed on second reading in order to gross placed on the counter for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1144 passed on second reading in order to revise placed on the counter for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1139 as amended lost on second reading.
They did? Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move adoption of the report.
There is an amendment. Mr. Majors, would you please read Cow 1?
The whole Amendment 1 to Senate Bill 115.
Senator Kefaulis.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Committee of the Whole Amendment 001.
Please, to the amendment.
Thank you, sir. Colleagues, this is an amendment to Senate Bill 115 and the amendment that I offered L007 to show that the amendment did pass. And if you'll recall, L007 concerns creating resources for affordable housing, which I think is something that we all agree is very important in the state of Colorado and which we have a great lack of. I ask for your support of the Committee of the Whole Amendment 001. Thank you.
Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. With all due respect to the good senator from Fort Collins, I ask for a no vote on Committee of the Whole Amendment 1. As chair, I did hear the arguments for or against, and I would note that the proposed amendment, the underlying amendment here, pertains to Title 29 to create the statewide affordable housing investment fund, to amend that. And please note that in the bill that Title 29 is not addressed at all. I did take that into consideration when ruling that the amendment, the original amendment, did not fit under the title. That might be up for debate. But if you note that Title 29 is not addressed in the bill, and I would urge your no vote simply because I earnestly believe this does not fit under the title of the bill.
Folks, we have a procedural inquiry here. The Senate is going to stand in a brief recess. The Senate will come back to order. When we recessed, we were on Committee of the Whole Amendment to Senate Bill 115. Is there further discussion? Senator Martinez-Humanick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask for a ruling by the President on Cal 001. I do not believe that this fits under the title of the bill.
Committee of the Whole Amendment 1 is ruled not to fit under the title of Senate Bill 115. So that takes us back to the Committee of the Whole report. Is there further discussion on the adoption of the report? Seeing none, are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, the report of the Committee of the Whole is adopted. Senate Bill 62 as amended, Senate Bill 115 as amended, Senate Bill 116 as amended, passed on second reading and ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1144 passed on second reading and ordered revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1139 as amended, lost on second reading. Consideration of resolutions. I do want to make a brief announcement. You're about to hear some sirens. So if it's your birthday today, you can pretend they are for you. But for the rest of us, it is a test of the State Patrol's emergency system. You will hear an alarm, but don't be alarmed. Mr. Majors. Majority Leader Shuffle.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate lay over the consideration of resolutions calendar to March 10th.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The consideration of resolutions on the calendar will be laid over until March 10th. Consideration of message from the House.
March 9, 2016, Mr. President, the House has passed on third reading and transmitted the advisory statutes. House Bill 1275 is amended, House Bill 1027 is amended.
Thank you. Introduction of bills.
House Bill 1035 by Representative Leonard and Senator Scott concerning the scope of statutes making the issuance of securities by public utility conditional upon approval by the Colorado Public Utilities Commission in connection therewith, clarifying that the approval requirement applies only to electric and gas utilities.
House Bill 1035 is assigned to the Committee on State Veterans and Military Affairs.
House Bill 1070 by Representative Neville, Senator Neville, concerning a signature verification requirement for municipal mail ballot elections in connection therewith making an appropriation.
House Bill 1070 is assigned to the Committee on State Veterans and Military Affairs.
House Bill 1093 by Representatives Ransom and Wright and Senator Tate concerning the use of the National Change of Address Database to maintain voter registration records in connection therewith, clarifying terminology and consolidating procedures for county clerks and recorders to follow when it appears that an elector has moved within the state.
House Bill 1093 is assigned to the Committee on State Veterans and Military Affairs.
House Bill 1103 by Representatives Kraft, Arbor, Landgraf, and Senators Martinez-Humanick and Dodd concerning clarifying license pathways for the mental health professional workforce.
House Bill 1103 is assigned to the Committee on Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1136 by Representative Vesgar and Senator Garcia concerning a requirement that a common carrier engaged in the transportation of property by railroad have at least 2 crew member aboard a freight train while the freight train is moving.
House Bill 1136 is assigned to the Committee on State Veterans and Military Affairs.
House Bill 1141 by Representatives Becker, Kay, and Quorum, Senators John and Roberts, concerning the protection of Colorado residents from the hazards associated with naturally occurring radioactive materials and buildings in connection with making an appropriation.
House Bill 1141 is assigned to the Committee on Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1149 by Representative Melton and Senator Newell, concerning a requirement that the Executive Board of a Common Interest Community created in Colorado before July 1, 1992 comply with the budget reporting provision of the Colorado Common Interest Ownership Act.
House Bill 1149 is assigned to the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 1165 by Representatives Becker, Kay, and Landgraf with Senator Crowder, concerning statutory changes based on the recommendations in the report of the 2013 through 15 Colorado Child Support Commission.
House Bill 1165 is assigned to the Committee on Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1182 by Representatives Corton, Duran, and Senators Cook and Heath, concerning the continuation of the Commodity Metals Theft Task Force.
House Bill 1182 is assigned to the Committee on Judiciary.
House Bill 1183 by Representative Buckner and Senator Crowder, concerning aligning changes made to the Federal Child Care and Development Block Grant Reauthorization of 2014 to the Colorado Child Care Assistance Program.
House Bill 1183 is assigned to the Committee on Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1185 by Representative Moreno and Senator Ulibarri, concerning the issuance of a new birth certificate with a gender designation that differs from the gender designated on the person's original birth certificate.
House Bill 1185 is assigned to the Committee on State Veterans and Military Affairs.
House Bill 1190 by Representative Dorr and Senator Cook, concerning the use of a deadly force in a detention facility.
House Bill 1190 is assigned to the Committee on Judiciary.
House Bill 1215 by Representative McCain and Senator Guzman, concerning changing the statutory provisions of parole to successfully reintegrate parolees into society by providing enhanced supportive services.
House Bill 1215 is assigned to the Committee on Judiciary.
House Bill 1229 by Representative Rankin and Senator Stedman, concerning modification of the means of repayment for certain ongoing financial obligations incurred by the state in order to fund capital construction projects for state-supported institutions of higher education.
House Bill 1229 is assigned to the Committee on Finance and the Committee on Appropriations.
House Bill 1255 by Representatives Quorum and Vigil and Senator Baumgartner, concerning additional methods to manage forests to secure favorable conditions for water supply.
House Bill 1255 is assigned to the Committee on Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy.
House Bill 1269 by Representative Melton and Senator Cook, concerning the ability of the Department of Revenue to allow additional application methods for identification cards.
House Bill 1269 is assigned to the Committee on Finance.
House Bill 1270 by Representative Lee and Senators Shuffle and Heath, concerning the limitation of laws governing security interest and owner's interest in a business entity.
House Bill 1270 is assigned to the Committee on Business, Labor, and Technology.
House Bill 1272 by Representative Kraft Harper, Senator Tate, concerning procedures to be followed in connection with the disconnection by ordinance of land from a municipality.
House Bill 1272 is assigned to the Committee on Local Government. Consideration of Governor's Appointments Consent Calendar. Mr. Majors, would you please read the appointments?
Members of the Solid and Hazardous Waste Commission for terms expiring August 1st, 2018, Michael K. Dempsey of Aurora, Colorado, serves as a representative from the regulated community and as a Republican reappointed. Charlotte Sophia Pitt of Denver, Colorado, serves as a representative of the government or academic community and as a Democrat reappointed. Joseph Charles Princeton Jr. of Boulder, Colorado, serves as a member of the public and as a Republican reappointed.
Majority Leader Shuffle.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate confirm the governor's appointments detailed on the consideration of governor's appointments consent calendar, which includes members of the Solid and Hazardous Waste Commission.
You have heard the motion. Is there further discussion on any of the appointments? Seeing none, are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, Michael K. Dempsey, Charlotte Sophia Pitt, Joseph Charles Princeton Jr. are appointed as members of the Solid and Hazardous Waste Commission. Co-sponsors. Announcements. Senator Newell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to remind everybody it is the Behavioral Health Caucus today at noon in 356, and we are having peer mentors. If you have not introduced yourself to peer mentors before, now's your chance, and free lunch. 356.
Further announcements. Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committees will be meeting as listed in the calendar today, but there is an addition to the Senate Agriculture Committee hearing for tomorrow. They are adding House Bill 1170.
Further announcements. Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, they have left the floor some time ago, but just wanted to remind you all that today was Douglas County Business Alliance Day at the Capitol. Had they been here, I would have looked forward to introducing them and reminding us all that one of the anchor towns from my district, the town of Castle Rock, has been named 3 out of the last 6 years the Economic Development Council's Colorado Large Community of the Year. Should you see these fine folks roaming the halls of our state capitol, please congratulate them on that distinction. We will be keeping the desk open. We're trying to read some more bills over. You do not have to return, but we will be here laboring on your behalf. And with that, Mr. President, move that the Senate recess until 1 o'clock this afternoon.
Senator Scheffel will be fined $2 because I'm sure some of the people he would have introduced hadn't received the award. You've heard the motion that the Senate stand in recess. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Did you say 2? The Senate will stand in recess until 2 p.m.